Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia and today we have a pretty exciting video because we are heading into December. So that of course means that it is time to set up December in my reading journal as well as talk about TBR. So this is going to be the final month in my reading journal for this year before I start a new journal. This is the last time that you'll see this specific one. I still need to buy my next one, but I will get around to that soon. And I will be introducing it to you in December when we set up my yearly spreads. But yeah, so let's go ahead and jump straight into my reading journal and then we'll come back and talk about all the books I'm hoping to read in the last month of the year. All right, welcome back to my reading journal, friends. As I said, we are in the final month of the year, so this is going to be the last time, other than my December reads video, that you will see this reading journal. And then at the end of December, we'll be, of course, setting up for January in a new one, which will be fun. But for this final month, I have seen a lot of people's like December spreads where they were kind of like a window into a wintry theme. And that was kind of my initial inspiration with this. But then I was like, oh, I'm going to do a fantasy sort of inspired window, which is what you see here. It's very kind of like elven a la, you know, like the Lord of the Rings movies. It very much reminds me of the architecture in Rivendell with the like curving lines and all that kind of thing. So I started doing that and I decided to cut it out so that I would have the window and then what's behind the window on separate pages so that you could actually like open up the window and see what was behind it. And I think I maybe regretted a little bit drawing the vines and stuff because it was so hard to actually cut around those leaves and like not accidentally cut them off. I think I did lose one or two leaves in the process, but it all worked out okay-ish in the end. I don't think you can notice too much that one was missing. But as you can see now, I didn't really end up doing a very wintry scene. I ended up drawing like kind of like a fairy tale-esque castle, and I did end up like putting snow on the roof, so you could kind of say that it's winter, but it's mostly just like a castle at night kind of scene. But I feel like that kind of fits the fantasy vibe more, you know, than just like a generic sort of winter scene. So I'm happy with it. I did end up going with kind of like a different style actually for the castle than that I used for the window, which was very kind of like, I don't know, more like realistic, I would say. And then I went more cartoony with like the castle and the landscape that I drew around it, because I did sort of go for a wintry landscape. I've got some pine trees and kind of, I call it like the Canadian style, because you have a lot of the really scraggly kind of one-sided pines here where they get buffeted by the wind and stuff up in like the Canadian Shield. If you've ever seen like a group of 7 painting, you'll know what I'm talking about. But this is definitely a totally different style from what they did. There was this, usually quite like realistic, or at least more realistic than my little bubbly trees here. But I've used this style before in my bullet journal and I think it's cute. So we're using it again here. And the castle is like, I went for a like bluish brick color, and like darker blue roofs, although I did kind of mess up on the 2 little tiny roofs and I accidentally used the color that I was planning to use for the night sky. As you can see, I'm going with it here. So those kind of end up disappearing, but oh well, I guess there's not much you could do about that now. I feel like that's a theme in my reading journal videos where I always end up like messing something up and then just like, well, not much I can do about that now, but there really isn't. And then for the night sky, I decided I didn't want to color in the whole page because I was like, well, first of all, that's going to take forever. But I thought it could be like a stylistic choice to make a shape of the night sky just around the castle where I would end up seeing it through the window. So I started off with this just kind of, I guess it's kind of like a house shape. And I do end up having to expand it a little bit just to make sure that the whole window, like it is behind all of the window, but I think I just made it like a 1 dot grid space taller or something. And for the moon and like the stars, I used this silvery, I don't know what you call it, but it's just like a pen. It's not like a marker or anything, but it's silver. And it was very interesting because when I was going around them, I was worried that I would draw over them too much, but because it's so like shiny, the marker almost just like skidded off them. You know how like when you would like as a kid like draw with a white crayon and then like paint over top or whatever, and the paint wouldn't stick to the crayon. Yeah, that's what it kind of reminded me of. And then in front of the castle, I just have some hills. They're white because, you know, snow, and what's supposed to be a frozen lake in front of them. And then we are turning back over to the front page to color in the window. And then because I had already cut it out, I had to put a piece of paper behind it just to make sure I didn't accidentally draw my castle and ruin it with a bunch of little tiny dots of the color from the front page. So yeah, just shoved a random piece of printer paper behind there and got to work. So just using a Tombow for the leaves and then Crayola for, I think, all of the other colors, as usual. And then I was kind of debating if I should like outline the window in black so that I could outline like the brick shapes in black, but then I was like, well, then where do I stop? Do I need to put black lines on the edges of all of the little pieces in the middle and over the vine? And I just thought it would be one not really like with the style, but also would be, well, kind of difficult to do it on some of those like little middle pieces to like actually add a black border when I've already cut away the page. I would think I would have had to do that first. But I think I like it this way better because it's just, I don't know, it's a very different style from like the black outlined ones, I find. But it's actually very fitting that I'm recording my December reading journal today, because yesterday and last night, we actually had like proper snow for the first time, and I wasn't expecting it to like stick around. You know how, well, if you live in a country where it snows, you know how like the first snow will just kind of like float around and then just like melt on the ground? Well, it has actually stayed on the ground overnight, and it is still on the ground. So I really need to get a move on with them winter tires. I should hopefully do that today. But you know, here we are. And now I'm just moving on to my month in review page. I wasn't sure if I should do another like cutout thing, but I think I'm gonna need the pages on the other side of it for my November reads. So we are not cutting anything else out. I'm just doing kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like when there's like, yeah, I have no idea what you would call some architectural feature like that. I don't know. I feel like I know the word, like it's sitting on the edge of my tongue, but I can't quite remember. Yeah, I don't know. I hate when that happens, when you're like, I know what the word is, but I just can't remember it. But yeah, I'm using my alphabet letter stamps for the titles. I honestly didn't really want to stamp December onto my window, but I couldn't think of where else I should put it. Like, I was like, should I put it like vertically along the edges of the page? I was like, I feel like that will look weird if it's just kind of floating out there by itself. So I decided to put it on the window itself, and I'm happy enough with how that looks. All right, we are now on to the final spread for this, which is of course my Pages Read tracker. I decided to go with the 2-page spread again, like I did in November, partially because I have quite a few pages left in this reading journal, and while I will use them for like testing and swatches and whatever else, I would like to fill up as much of it as possible with, you know, actual reading journal spreads. So I'm kind of trying to use up a few more pages. You'll see that Mimi has joined me. She's very sweet. But I'm doing kind of like a mini window on the side here, and then just like a post, I guess, on the other side of a similar style with the vines and the same gray and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really sure what to do for the titles, but I decided that sort of a scroll kind of look I thought that it would be in keeping with the theme, so that's what I ended up going for. And I think I'm also going to be using the stamps again. And here's Mimi. She can't be content with just sitting on my desk. She must be patted, which is very sweet of her. But I feel like they always, and I'm sure other people with cats have experienced this as well, where they don't want any attention, and then as soon as you start doing something where you can't give them any attention, they're like, oh my god, why don't you love me? You never pat me. Why do you hate me so much? It's just like, why, you really don't have to choose your moments, eh, cat? Like, you often see Gemma in these videos because she does the exact same thing, where she's like, oh, you're just sitting. That means you could be petting Gemma. It's like, I am doing something. She's like, well, you should be patting Gemma. And so, you know, it's hard to argue with that logic. But yeah, there are my little banners. I'm just gonna put the title on both pages. Usually I would just put it on one, but I didn't. Because I'm using the stamps, I can't really make it bigger, so I would have had to do hand lettering, and I just wanted it to match. So we just are doubling up the title. And then, as I said, you can see that sort of mini window there, and then we're doing, I couldn't fit the mini window on both sides because I had to add the 31st day, so that means that the axis on the bottom is longer on one side, so I didn't have the space for a second window, so we're just doing a pillar. And you can imagine that maybe it's part of a window on the other side. But yeah, we're just finishing up now. I'm gonna go ahead and add in the title, and then that is all for my December reading journal setup. All right, behold my slightly ridiculous December TBR stack. So I'm mixing up a little bit the way that I do my TBR this month because I often find that I'll select like 4 or 5 books for my TBR and then I feel like reading different stuff. So the plan for this month is to select more books so that there's more variety and I'm more able to mood read from my TBR, because I'm definitely a mood reader. I don't like to force myself to read books because then I just feel like I'm not going to enjoy them if I'm not in the mood for them. So by selecting more books, hopefully there will be something in this stack that I am in the mood for whenever I'm ready to start a new book. So let's start with the 2 books that I have already started reading. So first we have Blood of Dragons by Robin Hobb. This is of course the 4th book in the Rainwild Chronicles, and it is the last book that I have to read in the Realm of the Elderling series. I'm about 70 pages in, and I'm scared because I know so I sort of know how this ends because I've read the trilogy that comes after this, so that I've already given myself a few spoilers, but I'm really attached to all these characters and I know that bad things are probably going to happen to them before the end comes, and I don't want that for them. I want them to be happy, but alas, there are still struggles that they have to conquer before they can get their ending. I won't say too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but yes, I'm almost finished Realm of the Elderlings and I'm sad about it. Next up, I recently started The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I'm only about 20 pages into this one. I just read like a chapter and I'm not really sure what this is about. I just heard it described on BookTube as very kind of like atmospheric and moody, but I definitely thought it was fantasy. But it's just general fiction according to the library, and so far we are just in the real world doing kind of like, not like super normal things, but like not fantastical for sure. So we shall see how that transpires. It might just be that I did not know what this was getting into it, but I shall find out. I'm not super enthralled so far, but I'm going to keep going and see what I think, because it's only like a 200-page book, so I might as well just read it. But yeah, that is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. All right, next up we are continuing on with books that I have routinely talked about and still not read. So I've got Knife of Dreams and Gathering Storm, books 11 and 12 of the Wheel of Time. I said in my series reading video that I wanted to read 2 more Wheel of Time books, and these are the next 2 that I need to read. I keep putting them off. I know I've talked about it several times already, so you're probably just like, come on lady, just like get on with it and read the damn books. But hopefully once I have finished Realm of the Elderlings, I'll be in the headspace to continue another big series. So yeah, I'm gonna finish that off and then hopefully start Knife of Dreams, and we'll see how we get on with these 2 guys. They're both like 700 pages, so reading them both this month, maybe not. We shall see. It's possible, but that would be most of my reading for the month probably. All right, next up we have another one that I've talked about at least in the last month's for TBR, The Hobbit. I keep meaning to read this one because I need to read it for my book bingo, to actually get a bingo. And also it's been on my TBR for like 2 years and I just haven't got around to it. I can't tell you why, I don't know. But yeah, I would like to finally get around to reading it and get to enjoy this beautiful edition that I have not read from yet. All right, next we're getting into some different books that I don't think I have had on my TBR before. I don't think. Actually, that's a lie, because this one on the top, I remember talking about it, I think, in last month's TBR. And that is Malice by John Gwynne, book 1 of The Faithful and the Fallen. So I'm not super sure kind of what this is about. We're following 4 different characters. They all want different things. I think it's supposed to be kind of a slightly more brutal fantasy, but I really liked the Bloodsworn saga so far, the first 2 books, and I'm excited to explore more of John Gwynne's work. This is a completed series, so once I start it, if I really like it, I can just read the whole thing, which is very satisfying. Alright, speaking of completed series that I can just read the whole thing, I have Empire of Gold. This is the final book in the Databad trilogy. I was not planning on reading this series like this year, and I don't even think I talked about it in my series I was going to read next year video, but I had City of Brass on hold at my library for a really long time, actually, like months. I think I've been waiting for it for like 6 months. It might have came in and then I forgot and I had to put it on hold again, but yeah. So anyway, it came in and I read it and I really enjoyed it. The series is about a girl from Cairo who gets swept up in all the like magics and stuff that she thought were only a part of fairy tales when she was a kid, but it turns out there might be more to those tales than she thought, and she gets swept up into a whole other magical world with all its politics and characters, and I really enjoyed it, so I pretty much immediately put holds on the 2nd and 3rd books. And I've already read the 2nd book, this is the 3rd one, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what the conclusion is going to be, because there's kind of like a lot going on. You're kind of like, the main character, you're like, okay, I can see how she's like a good character, but then like everybody else, you're like, everybody else here sucks. So we'll see what the author does with that, who she allows to win in the end, because it's definitely sort of like, it's like here's a war, and both sides are doing terrible things. So you don't know who to root for other than our main girl. But yeah, that is Empire of Gold, the final book in the Databad trilogy. Alright, next up I have something a little bit different. It is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. This, I don't know really anything about this. I think it's about rich people getting up to shenanigans. I don't really know. But I've read some of her other books, Station 11 and something else that I don't remember what it was called, and I really enjoyed her writing, so I just grabbed this one I saw on the library shelf and just picked it up. It's just literary fiction, but I thought it might be nice to have some options that weren't fantasy to, you know, break up all the big books. There are a lot of big books in this stack. I think 4 of them so far are 700-page books, which is, that's a lot of pages for 1 month, so we shall see. This is another one that's about 250 pages, so a good little one to break up the tomes I have going on here. And then, speaking of tomes, I have one more. I have An Echo of Things to Come. This is book 2 of the Lycanius trilogy. I don't remember if I talked about this trilogy in my series video, but I read the first one earlier this year and I didn't think it was that good, but it was just good enough that I was intrigued to see what happens next. And I know James Islington has a new book out, something Roman inspired, I think. And I definitely want to pick up that one, but I think I'm going to finish his other trilogy first so I can like experience the growth of his writing, you know? Not that it really matters, we'll see. If I hate this one, I won't read the 3rd one, but I'm at least going to give it a try. It's about he's kind of like a chosen one, he's not really, but he goes on an adventure in the 1st book, and then some big baddies like breaking out and they get their asses kicked. So I'm assuming this is going to pick up pretty much exactly where that left off, and we shall see what is going to happen to all of our characters. But yes, this is my TBR stack for the month of December. As I said, I'm not planning to read every single one of these books. This is just so I have options. We shall see how many I get through, and yeah, we'll see what my final count of books read for the year of 2023 is very shortly. But that is all that I have time for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.